That clock's going to sound delightful.
Nice, so remove.
Song by Commander Darren Spider, and our cousin, Larton Crepsley Spider. Do you want to say the name? Or do you want to say the thing?
I will say the name.
Go for it.
Lionel.
I kinda leaf, it's a law firm.
Hutz.
Just going for your garbage.
Hutz.
Ben Bleefley married to Selma.
Hutz.
9:30 a.m. belt of scotch.
Sanchez.
Fawkes Hairbrush.
Hutz.
Crosby Sponsee.
Hutz.
Rudy Giuliani.
Von Neugen. Hutz.
Lionel Hutz, R.I.P. Going Anyad, Miad, Nagar, Gabi I, and Badi Adenko. Heck is empty.
Heck is empty and all the devils are here.
We are the antiquarians, Lawrence M. Nightingale and Flimsy Rosewater. Where is Father Anton? Rumours of a saviour from the manyverse.
We lickers of dusty tomes located in the bowels of the disused stadium in Springfield Park and down the tunnels to the Hall of Laley.
Employed to put Simpsons files into Spotty Archive, number 15. To haphazardly document the lives of Springfield's backwaters and doors.
Haunted by an outside which it circles around but can never fully acknowledge.
Haunted, thanks to our cousins, still MIA season after season over at MFIMDB for promoting the show. We are professionals here and safe from all harm. Lawrence, please tell me you checked the circle every quarter of an hour, counterclockwise. Use the 24-hour clock.
The circle is intact. Fortresses to defend the operators, mark the sigil, fetch the step ladders. Ham.
So Lawrence M. Nightingale, allergic to shellfish people, likes to avoid discovering personal info, no blood disdain for cabbage and Cabbage Patch Kids, distant cousin of Wiggins Bigfoot, owns post office in Cork, once won lifetime Red Bull, working through, access to Reese's Pieces warheads, orange buttons, not afraid to use. What else do we need to know about you?
I am working with the company Shreddies to promote boxes that have gone out of date but are still relatively usable.
And I'm Flimsy Rosewater, ribbon aficionado, and velvet, with its plush texture and rich hues, velvet exudes luxury. Velvet is traditionally associated with the colder months of the year, but it's easy to press, store and reuse for winters to come. Oh, look over there in the corner. There's a little spider in the dust.
Oh yes, with his little plumes and his cheek guards, and also his spear dripping with blue blood.
Are you the one who hoards the salt? Is that your legion on the horizon? And over in the second corner, who's that?
It must be Baroness Berry the Vale of Catmose, it must be.
Hyperintendent of Multi-Academy Counter-Extremism?
But how?
But how?
Meow.
Baroness, what do you have to say for yourself to explain the current state of Multi-Academy Counter-Extremism?
Swings and roundabouts, meow.
And over in the third corner, those little magical queer folk mice.
The daisy circle medieval forest dwellers, finishing up the tiny cute pig ribs.
What is that fuzzy king that they're carrying on that tiny throne?
On your mouse shoulders, a satchel of letters, a basket of pig eggs, and KV embroidered on his corduroy jacket.
The clues are starting to become very clear. And in the darkness, the fourth corner, with some red dundies on his face, and HAMM stenciled on his back. What did you find when you investigated Flimsy?
Is he human automated munch munch?
Maybe we'll never know. So today's episode is Lionel Hutz. What are some of the cast connections to Lionel Hutz?
There's not very many. The first one, death, sadly applies, because he is one of the very rare characters who hasn't died in show but has died out of show. Like Doris, and he doesn't wear glasses, he doesn't go to school. He's not a character who's considered cool or uncool. He's not as bad as like Gil or Kirk Van Houten, but he's no Disco Stew. He's a non-mobber. I think Groening probably liked Phil Hartman, so it was the opposite of bringing him back to annoy him, whatever the opposite of annoying is.
Loving.
Love connections. He has one odd one and one convenient one easy one. And he is nodding tapped out, and he's barely in any usable bongos. But I'd like to throw in a new category for
Please do.
Special voice, Dora, Sideshow Raheem, Maggie Simpson, Barb, and Cecil.
What about the bowling guy?
We haven't done an episode about him.
I don't know, I just like him. What appeals to you about Phil Hartman's character of Lionel von Hutzman.
He's one of the best in the show. He defines.
I can see why you'd like that.
He defines the early seasons very well.
But how?
But would you like some shreddies?
I'd like you to be specific on what is it about Lionel Hutz that appeals to your rinky-dink nature.
They're only a week out of date. I like that he's a shyster. I like that he has nobody else but himself in his interests, which is sort of Homerish, but more Homer without a family and with some level of competence. Competent enough to scam people, but not competent enough to be a lawyer, a good lawyer. He still gets the money though.
He's a terrible lawyer. He gets away with some money, but clearly off screen he's had some horrendous times.
Yeah.
As we come across, this isn't the YMCA as he brandishes his knife.
He's also very reminiscent of Saul Goodman.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of a way that they aren't connected. I imagine when they brought Saul in, they must have had some Lionel Hutz conversation. And also Bob Odenkirk's brother writes for The Simpsons.
Yeah, and there's no way that Bob Odenkirk didn't know Phil Hartman from being in those areas. But I think it's okay because they are different in the sense they are different characters, and Saul isn't as cartoonish. Hutz is a pure cartoon lawyer. He's absolutely brilliant.
I rewatched the first episode that Saul's in Breaking Bad yesterday, and he is way more cartoonish.
Right.
So the very initial Saul stuff was stereotypical American lawyer, and they weirdly didn't try to replace him with a lawyer that was similar, which they easily could have done. Like with Troy McClure, they just replaced him with other celebrities, but they replaced Hutz with Gil, who was like the opposite of Hutz in his confidence levels.
And also not a lawyer.
I think he is. I think Gil is a lawyer, but Gil and Hutz work together in that last episode with the realty stuff, and Hutz just bullies Gil. He takes one of his walls.
Speaking of walls, here's a telegram from Kurt Vonnegut. Why don't we tag team it?
Yeah. Truly real baby doll Drakey.
Why don't you do the whole verse?
Tag team the whole thing. Baldo's mother Frigg casts a powerful magic to make sure that no plant grown on Earth could be used as a weapon against her son. Graviola is a fruit that is native to the trees of rainforests in Africa.
The deployment of CSTO troops was not an act of regional politics. Rich people and nations are happier than their poor counterparts. Quality first, speed second. 2. Connect with your customers. 3. Go the extra mile. Circular patches of peeled, inflamed skin.
Heart set on his wife and his return, Calypso, the bewitching nymph. A captive path I lead, Jamestown. All cultivate an attitude of gratitude, KV.
So they're getting somewhat more abstract, these love letters to Drake. So I think... Oh, Drake's here. I didn't notice you over there, Drake. How long have you been there?
16 weeks.
Still keeping his vow of silence, though. He's waving.
Yeah, he counted to 16 on his hands, on his fingers.
Ah, it's weird that he has 16 fingers, isn't it? All right, Drake, he's gone. See you later.
I'd say that was less random, more a sort of collage of searches melded into one.
So what rank would you list Lionel Hutzman?
C, straight down the middle.
Why is that?
Why is that? It is because he isn't... If Hartman hadn't been brutally murdered, he would have...
That's not funny.
I said it now. He would have...
Murder's no laughing.
He would have definitively continued and had episodes about him. Like Troy McClure got one, but because he didn't continue, I would place him in C. As a character who pops up a lot, but you don't really know anything about, so you can't class him as a B. We know very little about him.
He's a very popular and well-known character. Everybody knows him from his catchphrase, "Hi, I'm Dr. Hutz."
Oh, yes.
Okay, here's some facts. Hartman RIP, we've already mentioned that one. His legal practice located in a shopping mall is named I Can't Believe It's a Law Firm, and also offers expert shoe repair. He's definitely got a connection to Dr. Nick Riviera.
Definitely.
In his sliminess.
Oh yeah, I agree. He's the lawyer version of Dr. Nick, but with a toned down accent.
The joke, essentially, in terms of The Simpsons, being that they keep returning to this ridiculous failure yet cheap lawyer who has at times won their court cases for them.
Like 3 times, I think.
But they never got anything good out of that. Those victories.
Absolutely no reason for them to continue to hire. I think Marge mentions it at one point. She says, "Why do we keep hiring him?"
Ho, Marge.
meta.
Hutz is a recovering alcoholic. He once offered Marge a celebratory belt of scotch at 9:30 on the morning, remarking he had not slept in days.
Yes, I think that's one of the early ones. But he seems to have a real dark trouble with it, as we see in one of the clips. It's played relatively seriously for him, but also funny for us to see this man crumbling in court at the worst possible time.
Oh yeah, there definitely you could make a dark, serious version of Hutz. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if that's basically what they did with Saul. They were like,
basically,
what if we just fill in the gaps and make him a horrible, devious person, but he has to actually suffer the consequences rather than just bouncing back for the next time. He's the moleman.
He's also quite Doris in the multiple jobs category. He's been a lawyer, but also a babysitter and a realtor, and tried to be Miller's agent.
And a shoe repairman.
Yes.
His other alias is Dr. Nguyen van Frog.
That's a great one.
He was briefly married to Selma Bouvier, although the story was not shown, and it was just mentioned. He only married her in order to get his hands on Auntie Gladys's inheritance.
I think that's been added by somebody, or from Bongo, the inheritance thing, because she literally mentions him. I think Homer wants her to marry Apu, and she lists off her surnames, and Hutz is one of them, but it's not in that episode. So unless there's another mention of him. But he was also married to Disco Stew.
Yes.
And Mole Man? No.
Marriages to Selma should be one of our Cascas connections. Homer was in his case against the sea captain in the Frying Dutchman restaurant, where Hutz described the all-you-can-eat offer as the most blatant case of fraudulent advertising since my suit against the film The Never-Ending Story.
Probably one of the first Never-Ending Story jokes.
Scully, a writer, described Hutz as a combination of overconfidence and incompetence, and he claimed to have graduated from Princeton School of Law, although Princeton hasn't had a law school since the mid-19th century. His rival is the blue-haired lawyer who just knows exactly how to take him down, and other things too.
Plenty of other things. Yeah, he's it's a shame because the blue-haired lawyer is one of the most universally disliked Simpsons characters, and he fills like a huge void in the show. Even prior to the removal of Lionel Hutz, he wasn't liked, and then he basically, not only was he in those scenes, he was then the most prominent lawyer, and he already wasn't funny. He's just like a parody of like a 1940s character that the writers probably liked. Many of them are, to be fair though.
So he has this idea where you can, if you case is 1 in 30 minutes, so your pizza is free. And so he thinks he's lost the case. He gives the Simpsons the box to their pizza. Marge then informs him they win it, and then he informed that the box was empty anyway. Well, according to some website, teachersplea.org, while no truly outrageous advertisements for Lionel Hutz have been seen on The Simpsons, he has advertised his cases 1 in 30 minutes, etc. But for many, Saskatchewan cable television viewers are familiar with New York lawyer Jim the Hammer Shapiro's over-the-top commercials, and Shapiro's advertisements are currently archived on YouTube in case you want to watch that.
There's a character in Better Call Saul called Judge Shapiro, I think. I wonder if that's a connection.
Definitely no.
Definitely no.
The Simpsons, Escapist magazine talks about how Lionel Hutz is an incompetent advocate, but it's not the worst thing. He violates pretty much every rule in the book, including everything to do with ethics. While it might not be common knowledge, lawyers are bound by a strict code of ethics. You are not allowed to promise such a big cash settlement and then arrange an exploitative 50% contingency fee and encourages Bart to lie about his injuries and enlist a phony doctor to provide false testimony. And there are consequences in that they usually lose every single one of their trials, or most of them, and he runs away screaming should any of them actually come back to face him. Shall we get on with some content?
Sure.
The influence of Phil Hartman and the Hutz character can be seen in a variety of other shows, including Arrested Development's Barry Zuckerman and Futurama's Hyper Chicken.
I didn't know that, which it makes sense because he's just a lawyer that's a chicken. But he's basically Foghorn Leghorn. But Zach Brannigan from Futurama was supposed to be Phil Hartman.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
So it's just Billy West, who does like Fry and Zoidberg, doing a Phil Hartman impression, basically.
Because he's the kind of Kirk kind of character, right?
Yeah.
What's that guy called?
Zach Brannigan.
Plays Captain Kirk.
Picard.
In Star Wars.
Shatner.
TJ Hooker. Content. Season 2, Episode 10, Bart Hit Car. Hospital, Bart in bed gathers. You, I've never seen you before. Bart points a slimy finger at Slimy Hutz. Bad Homer Animation says, hey, I know you. You are the one who was chasing Bart's ambulance. He says, oh, Mr. Simpson, I'm Lionel Hutz. Marge looks on in wide-eyed something. Lionel Hutz, attorney-at-law here. My card turns into a sponge when you put it in water. Ooh, says Homer, fancy. He's a bit legit here, I thought to myself. I'd like to talk to you about bringing legal action against who did this to your boy, points at Bart with an angry face. We fade. Pa! Doctors, he poo-poos. Doctors are idiots. He continues, there's no telling what kind of permanent injury the boy might have. You might have to wait on him hand and foot, prodding Homer hard in the chest for the rest of his natural life. Oof! It's very dark. Oh, my, he grumbles, and there's a general family noise. That's the downside. Now here's the good part, he points. You can ching cash in on this tragedy. Excuse me, Mr. Hutz, are you a shyster? Says Lisa. How does a nice little girl like you know a big word like that? He bends down.
Nice, solid start. He's clearly more competent here, which I think happened with a lot of Simpsons characters in the early days. Like for some reason, they didn't immediately realise that incompetence would be funny on characters who weren't just Homer. So he's got the, I don't know, Barney was quite a mess from the start. I was going to say people, maybe Apu, Smithers. There's people who sort of started out relatively non-cartoonish.
Flanderization, innit?
Basically. He sort of, it sounds like he knows what he's talking about here. And he's more of, like the swindler kind of guy than a, like, incompetent kind of dumb lawyer who forgets he's got no pants on.
Yeah, he's a bad guy. He's a shyster. He's a sleazy kind of ambulance chaser, but at this point he has not been proven to be woefully incompetent as well.
Yeah, and I don't know, I can't really remember the rest of this episode, and I didn't watch it. But maybe they realise that in this episode, towards the end of the case, that...
Isn't this the one where Judge Schneider with the... I sort of ran over his dog?
No, that's the Marge going to prison one. That's his finest hour, I would say.
Right.
But yeah, the card that you can turn into a sponge got made. That's something you can now purchase, the Lionel Hutz card.
It's brilliant. Called Klondike 555. Clip 2. A streetcar named Marge. We have a close-up almost face-forward Hutz. Lionel Hutz, attorney-at-law. I'm getting a class action suit on behalf of the director for everyone who was cut from the play. I also play Mitch. Fade to New Orleans, the song. The great song from Streetcar. Great song. New Orleans. If you want to go to hell, you should take a trip on the Sodom and Gomorrah of the Mississippi. And Hutz is giving it his all.
Yeah, I put this one in because it was him not being a lawyer. I thought this was one of the only times we see him, same for another clip in a minute, but it's one of the only times that we see him not doing the thing we're used to seeing him do. And I don't know how he made it into this. Specifically, when they had a choice of like 8 characters, I think they just, at this point, wanted to use him as much as they could. This is still early though, this is like the very start of season 4, but there was plenty of people they could have put in there, and they chose Lionel Hutz to do it. And yeah, he only has like 2 lines, so it seems sort of like, you know, the shipping Roswell in from Denver.
I bet they let him do it from home. Oh, Phil, no need to come in. Just do it from home. Maggie's in the corner. But I do love that song. In fact, the whole streetcar thing is very well done. Yeah,
they had to apologise to New Orleans the week after in the chalkboard gag because they took it very, very badly. But I've been to New Orleans and it's one of my favourite places that I've been.
So all's fine. I went. It was trashy.
I like it a lot.
I did like the Voodoo Museum.
Nice.
Clip 3. Season 4, episode 21. Courtroom, Hutch strides, suited. I repeat, suited. Now Apu. Mrs. Simpson claimed she had forgotten she was carrying that bottle of delicious bourbon. We get sinister yet magical strings, and it closes up on Hutz as he says, brownest of the brown liqueurs. A partially covered Maud bonus. What's that? He holds the bottle gently to his ear. Face forward, Hutz. You want me to drink you? Clutches bottle to chest and looks around. But I'm in the middle of a trial. Puts the bottle down. Excuse me. Walks, then runs from the courtroom to the payphone. This was really unexpected when it happened. I remember watching this for the first time and it was bonkers. He calls and it's David Crosby, rock star. Hello, David. I'm really tempted. We cut to a man with gold discs sitting in a chair. We're holding a Crosby, Stills and Nash record. Just take it one day at a time and know that I love you, says famous singer and drunkard, ex-drunkard David Crosby. This is enough for Lionel. I love you too, man, he says, and all is well.
It was hard to choose a clip from this episode. This is definitively his best episode, and he's in it. It's also one of Maud's best episodes.
Ka-ching.
So our cousins would be excited if we knew where they were.
Our cousins?
Cousins. But yeah, forgot what I was saying. Yeah, this is the best one, just because everything he says in this episode is funny. I think most of what he says is in that compilation at the end as well, but you've got this, and then you've got the thing of him getting guilty wrong, and the stuff about picturing lawyers in his head. Pants as well, that's from this one, because you see David Crosby shaking his head in the correct. But I picked this one because you see who he is the most. And the fact that he's actively talking out loud to this bottle of like bourbon in front of everybody, you can clearly hear him.
It's a low point, isn't it, where he's nursing the little bottle and talking gently to it. You want me to drink you? And then he fights back and he goes out and he finds his celebrity Spencer. There's a lad that I used to know, and his friend had some drink problems, and
He's sponsored by Nash.
No, but the weird thing is, he was like talking one day, and he goes, "Yeah, and it's my sponsor's Will Self," and his sponsor's Will Self.
Is Will Self.
Whatever.
Which band is
Clip
Will Self?
4. Marge on the lamp. Doorbell. Simpson hallway. Open. Homer Joe opens the door. Dear Simpson opens the door. Hutz is there. Mr. Simpson, I was just going through your garbage and I couldn't help overhearing that you need a babysitter. Arms raised. Of course, being a highly skilled, high-power attorney, my fee is $175 an hour. Homer says, we pay $8 for the night and you can take 2 popsicles out of the freezer. Hutz replies, 3. Homer Simpson, 2. Okay, now, says Hutz, caving immediately, and I get to keep this old bird cage. He brings out a crumpled and broken bird cage. Done, says Homer. Still got it, says Hutz, waggling his tie. Fade. Bart is on the couch. The kids wake. Hey, it's morning. Mum and Dad aren't home yet. Don't worry, Mr. Hutz is still here to take care of us. Casually dressed Hutz is curled up in front of the couch asleep. Lisa waggles his head. Hutz leaps up, brandishing a knife. Don't touch my stuff, he shouts, waving the knife around. As he comes through, he laughs at the kids. Ha ha ha, this isn't the YMCA.
Yeah, I left both of these in because I wanted to give a good picture of, we've seen this before as well with Pinchy. Kind of Roy, that might be it for the Cast people, but people who've moved into the Simpsons house and sort of embodied that space for a while, like he's basically in charge of the kids in
the Roy space.
Yeah, and he just does things, he's very practical in what he does. He basically spends the night burning his stuff and getting a new identity and earning some cash, but the fact that he was so open about going through the garbage is one of those things where he's not unconfident.
Did he say he was doing it for, to help his clients?
He just says, I was digging through your garbage. There's no reason behind it, but he's so confident that that isn't a scummy thing to do that it sort of works in his favour, which is the opposite of sort of Gil, where Gil is sort of very aware. Empathetic he is. Lionel Hutz does not care. I imagine this is, I think the last clip was probably the downfall in show for Lionel, and that was when they realised we can just have him come in and just be the worst, and it doesn't
have to be connected to being a lawyer.
No.
It just has to be him to be a shady, underground kind of character, an underhanded kind of character. Anywhere we need someone really dodgy, he's the man. And again, just our cousins have said many times that killing off Maud was a very bad move because they lost so many fantastic, great stories. Although I read somebody somewhere was like, oh yeah, we were thinking that we should have, kept these characters around because we would have done so many more stories with them. I think talking about Krusty's dad. And then in the end, they were supposed to kill him off and they didn't. And then 10 years later, they eventually did because they realised in that 10 years they'd not used him in the slightest.
No, they don't have time for episodes about Krusty and his dad every season because it's I think there's they dish it out where there's basically 2 or 3 episodes available for a B-list for Mo or Krusty.
So there's 150 B-lists.
Yeah, so they're only getting an episode once every 2 or 3 seasons maybe. And you're not going to just bring Krusty's dad in every time. Whereas Hutz, if he'd stayed around, could have just been in that familiar B-list of people like Mo, where it wouldn't seem weird to just cut to show what they were doing. And this was probably them trialling that, having him not be a lawyer and just sort of interacting as like a person.
So, obviously there's no real continuity, but how do you think they dealt with the fact that they just said he threw away his identity and became Miguel Sanchez? Is it? What would be the repercussions for Hutz in this situation?
I think he just went back to being, I think it just didn't work. I think he was unsuccessful in changing his identity and nobody believed him. But I don't think he's done anything going to prison worthy. I think it was probably a tactical move, or in his head it was a tactical move.
But you never see him getting into any trouble, right? You never really see the mob guys closing in on him or...
No, this episode ends with him saying that, doesn't it? That he got paid $8 for his babysitting, and he had that and Dr. Nugent Van Valk as his aliases. Which is, I think it's just the joke being that he probably definitively thought he would need them and they would work, and they didn't work and he didn't need them.
Clip 5. Secrets of a successful marriage. Classroom. Hutz raises his hand. My problem is I'm a real user of women. I move in right away and stay until the money goes. Cut to Edna. I'm a smart woman, but I make bad choices. Predictably, the two of them come together as Hutz leans over and whispers in her ear. She whispers. She giggles. Okay, here's a set of house keys and my ATM card.
I left this in because this is the only sort of romantic Hutz, other than apparently there was one time he was seen with the church Sunday school teacher, Mrs. Albright, according to the wiki, which is
the very unreliable Wiki Simpsons, yes.
But we'll talk about their relationship in the Mrs. Albright cast.
Amazing.
Edna, connection. Obviously, she's tied in with the Flanders now. So if Hutz hadn't left, I think, to be fair, they didn't stay together until Hutz left. I think this was probably a very quick realisation on both of the parts what had just happened, because Edna doesn't have any money to steal, basically. And she would probably realise pretty quickly what he was doing.
Oh, this is an afternoon at most. So they probably had this lesson at like midday, and by 8 p.m, everything of value had been sold from her house, and her card had been maxed out. She'd had to cancel it, and he'd somehow wangled out of being charged for the fees.
And left, yeah. I like that the funniest thing about him is his voice, but this joke works because we don't hear what he's saying. Like, I wonder what he whispered to her to make it that quickly convincing.
But that's the magic of television. We have to use our own imagination. Season 9, episode 9. What's this, clip 5? Clip 6.
We've skipped 4 years as well. Probably some great Hutz stuff, but I wanted to cover this one because this is his very last appearance.
Great Hutz stuff. But this one, he's totally out of the lawyer game and he's into real estate. So it's Red Blazer Realty. We've already seen this, or our cousins have already seen this from a very different perspective. Marge, it's real estate. Marge, I had a lot of calls about you. Our customers love you and your no pressure approach, says Hutz. Marge smiles. Well, like you say, it's the right house for the right person. Hutz sits nicely. She's obviously only been in the job for like 2 days or something like that.
Yeah.
Hutz sits nicely and says, listen, it's time I let you in on a little secret, Marge. The right house is the house that is for sale. He gestures with his hands, and the right person is anyone. But Marge said, all I did was tell the truth. Of course you did, Hutz. There's the truth, he says, sternly shaking his head, and a high-pitched, happy version. The truth, smiling and nodding. Let me show you. He opens the book to a small house. It's awfully small, says Marge. I'd say it's awfully cozy, says Hutz. That's dilapidated. Hutz says rustic, and Maud. Marge said, the house is on fire. Motivated seller, says Hutz, punching the air. That's a beauty. And the strings swell. Hutz slams close the book. Forget about that house. That's the murder house, and shows her a clip related to these gruesome murders. Well, no one expects you to sell that house, but you need to sell something because cubicles are for closers, Marge, and anyone who doesn't sell a house in the first week gets fired. I probably should have mentioned that earlier.
Excellent. Yeah, I left this specifically in because it kind of is the closest look into who he is and how he operates with the truth and the truth thing. Like, he knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows, it's similar to Michael on The Office. He's incompetent, but he sort of knows how to sell.
It's charming.
Yeah, so it sort of works, and he doesn't take no for an answer, and in a sales way. And Marge is not that person in any capacity, so it's nice to see those two having some kind of interaction. But I imagine from what I can see here, he sort of had that big crumbling as a lawyer, moved away from it, became homeless and started rooting through people's garbage, and then just sort of picked himself back up ever so slightly, and now he's back out of the lawyer game, but it seems like it's probably by choice, and he's using those skills in this job to sort of, do the same thing basically, like turn things around so they seem how he wants them to seem.
Yeah, you'd think if Hutz didn't exist, they might have invented a sleazy real estate person and had them. It's weird they invented a sleazy doctor and a sleazy lawyer, but then they just kind of stopped.
Yeah, sleazy barman.
Sleazy barman.
Sleazy client.
Yeah.
Sleazy mayor.
Yeah. So it is weird they didn't just invent a sleazy real estate, because I think there's a lot.
Yeah, Wigham's not too sleazy.
No,
He's just dumb.
He's incompetent. They're all incompetent.
Sleazy mobster.
They're all incompetent and they're all sleazy.
Sleazy wife of Ned.
Get out of here. But that's great. I mean, considering it's season 9, they spent a lot of time on that piece where they're looking at the book. That's like 2 or 3 minutes of them sitting there looking at that book, and it's like, that's like a good chunk of the plot time for basically the joke being that he's sleazy and he's going to sell anything. And I guess it was plot driven to introduce the murder house thing, because it comes back later, right?
Yeah, but they could have skipped out 2 of those. I suppose it doesn't take up that much time if they're already in the book, but there's a few sort of, this is Lionel being like exposition-y in his actions rather than just sort of coming in and being really funny for like 5 minutes and then leaving. He's sort of central. So I mean, this is probably his most, like his biggest appearance in terms of plot. Sort of the bad guy, in that he's going to be the one, he's putting the pressure on Marge and he's going to fire Marge.
Yeah.
And Gil.
But it's not his business, he's working for someone else, and he's been the sleazy middle manager, right?
Yeah, which is a good role for him. But yeah, unfortunately, this was it. This is the last one.
Oh, he would have been great, and you would have thought maybe Better Call Saul is, in its essence, is the spin-off Simpsons show that Hartman never got.
Kind of, yeah, because they were supposed to do a McClure film with Hartman playing McClure, but this seems way more similar to Hutz, obviously. But yeah, there's got to be, because they directly mentioned the Simpsons in one episode. I don't want to give any spoilers away. How's the salt circle? Do you want any shreddies?
Bonus. So I haven't written down all of these. If there's something
America.
If there's something America needs, it's more lawyers. Better cut down there, Mr. Smoke. Better cut down there, Smokey, because he tries to give this smoking monkey away as a free gift, right?
Yeah, it seems like the gimmick early, because that's an early one, was free gifts. So they had that and the sponge. Just sort of weird. And I never understood that was supposed to be a real monkey. An alive monkey or a toy monkey.
Because there's a drawer full of them. You see in the drawer full of them. I think they're toy monkeys. Mr. Hutz, do you know that you are not wearing trousers?
That's a great one.
That's his low point, surely.
That's in the scene just after he's confidently said Marge isn't going to go to prison. All that stuff happens. Combing
his hair with a fork while he's talking to try and look classy. And while he's combing his hair with a fork, he says, Mr. Simpson, don't you worry, I watched Matlock in a bar last night. The sound wasn't on, but I think I get the gist of it.
Yeah, that's from the Halloween one. So that was a good, sort of a good example of seeing him in the other reality.
Oh, is that's the other reality, yeah.
So because Ned is Satan, and Homer always in his soul, and for some reason, they hired Lionel, but he doesn't treat it as if it's not just a normal court case. He still just confidently struts in with and he doesn't get in there and then realise that, oh, this is Satan, and the judge is death, and the cage is on fire. He doesn't respond to any of that. He just carries on as if it was a normal court case.
He just plays it straight. Good old Lionel. And when he's babysitting, I guess they're watching LA Law or something like that, and he says, "Oh, sure, like lawyers work in skyscrapers and have secretaries. Oh, look, he's wearing a belt. That's Hollywood for you."
That's a classic Simpsons thing. They transferred that over to the likes of Moe. And there's one with Moe where he says, "You don't like my belt." There's one where he's got a cord for a belt, and there's one where he's wearing plastic bags for shoes, and he says, "You don't like my bags." And there's one where Jimbo's got a cord for a belt, and Bart says something about him. Kearney says he's ragging on your cord.
I think the rope for a belt is the classic shorthand for being poor, right?
Yeah. And it just sums how far he's fallen, because he clearly had a belt earlier. Maybe he didn't because his pants fell off.
I've had it with your renegade ways, Simpson. He shouts at Marge when she's later in that real estate episode when she's trashed everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is after she's trashed everything. So it's sort of an underreaction I suppose it's not his house and he knows that there's insurance and he's just going to fire her, but he's still relatively calm to say that.
The joke being that she's never done anything rash or...
Yeah.
But it's very much like the Clint Eastwood thing, the kind of Dirty Harry thing when the police commissioner's shouting at, the officer, ever had it with your ways.
And he's done nothing particularly out of the realms of insanity. Marge has done nothing. It's funny that Lionel Hutz would think that Marge's actions in this instance are renegade, given all the things that he's done. But that just adds to that sort of the level of self-confidence we haven't seen in the cast before, I don't think.
Very confident.
Maybe Poochie.
Oh, Poochie's got high levels of confidence.
Cecil. Who had this as well.
The comedy of being incredibly confident while not really being very good is a trope, right?
Yeah. The flashback when Homer's in school and that girl walks past and says, "I think you're cool, Homer Simpson," and he starts like putting his hair through his hand, like smiling, and then the other girl just says, "That was me and Susan," or something. And he just continues to. It's sort of that delusion, and he's not fazed by anything until his pants have fallen off.
It's the delusion, isn't it? There's comedy characters that are just delusionary. So McLovin, the dude from Stranger Things, right, with the curly hair. Although you see his.
Dusty.
He's got this. Maybe he's not a good example.
He can do that thing with his shoulders, though. It's really weird.
The verdict is written on a cocktail napkin, and he passes the napkin to Judge Schneider, and he says, "And it still says guilty, and guilty is spelt wrong."
That's one of the best ones. That's where he couldn't have done a worse job. And that's again, that's in the episode of Margin Chains. So that just sort of that ties up the whole courtroom scene, him doing that.
And I think this is his first definitive line, isn't it? "Oh, we've drawn Judge Schneider. He's had it in for me since I kind of ran over his dog. Oh, well, replace kind of with repeatedly, and dog with son."
Yeah, that's one of the best, most brutal lines that shows how much of a monster he truly is. As if he still says no remorse in his voice. He's
None
just
whatsoever.
That it's unfavourable for him. And we've never seen Judge Schneider have a son, so we can imagine it was fatal.
The thing is, as long as he gets out of the immediate danger he's in, then it's just the next thing.
Yeah.
It's your Trump scenario, isn't it? It's like, it looks like he's totally done for. And if there is even a glimmer of hope of him getting out of it, as soon as he gets out, he's right back into the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's just he's always going to be off screen. It's funny when it's off screen as well. Something being mentioned that he's just done these string of things.
He's tenacious.
I was going.
That's why we love him.
But yeah, I like the sort of double act with him and Judge Schneider because it's one of those strange C-list double acts that they've got occasionally.
You read that court transcript of Rick and Morty where someone had put a real court case, but it was Rick against the judge, and that's the kind of thing. Not quite as dark as that, but Mr. Hutz, we've been here for 4 hours. Do you have any kind of evidence at all? Well, Your Honour, I've got plenty of hearsay and conjecture. Those are kinds of evidence. Mr. Hutz, why are you burning all your personal papers? As of this moment, Lionel Hutz no longer exists. Say hello to Miguel Sanchez.
That's one of the best ones again because we'd never find out why he needed to change his identity. It's
just so obvious that it is multiple indiscretions over and over again with many people. And indiscriminately just throwing it all into the fire.
And it's basically like he's done it at the first chance he's had when he's got inside a home with a fireplace.
Exactly. It's like he's a chancer, right? It's just like he's ready to leap on any opportunity whatsoever. And if he can turn it to his advantage, and again,
I like that.
Maybe that's why people loved Trump when he was just the chancer on The Apprentice.
Not when he's president of the country.
Not when he's asking for his cronies to overtake the Capitol, allegedly.
I do like that Miguel Sanchez is a name that Lionel Hutz couldn't get away with, and then he went from that to Nugent von Fock.
That was a right pretty speech, sir, but I ask you, what is a contract? This is one of the ones where he undercuts him. He does it a few times that episode, doesn't he? Where he actually shoots himself in the foot.
Yeah.
I ask you, what is a contract? Webster's defines it as an agreement under the law which is unbreakable. Unbreakable. And then he realizes what he's saying. Excuse me, I must use the restroom, and runs away.
Yeah, Halloween special. This is they just needed him in and out quickly, I think. So this is the only time that he actually just actively flees a court case because he knows that he's going to lose. And yeah, he just I like the determination that he's making his point is the correct level of determination, but he just hasn't pre-read it. So like when he says that was a right pretty speech as well, they're just things he's reading off a.
It's like there's the one in The Office where David Brent is presenting something and he picks up a random book of quotes and he starts reading them and they're completely inappropriate. I did that once. It's, you should prep people. And then there's that whole thing with Apu where he says, Apu, have you ever forgotten anything? And Apu says no. And he says, well, if that is the thing, then tell me, what type of tie am I wearing? He turns away now. And Apu says, he explains it specifically, the type of tie and the type of knot. And he's like taking off and says, well, I have something to tell you. And he's drawing out longer and longer because he can't get the tie off. And that thing is as follows, and it will shock you. He takes off the tie and says, I'm not wearing a tie at all, and everyone believes him. He's like, and that, I think that's the thing with, because he's a lawyer and he's saying it, people, like the joke being that people will believe him.
I think it's just
everyone except for the judge.
It's a testament to how kind of dumb Springfield as a town can be as well, and that's the only reason that he's got any kind of career as a lawyer within this town, is because, people will. Because the entire jury and the crowd watched him take the tie off, but then seconds later was stunned when he says, I'm not wearing a tie. And I don't think this would slide with Apu either. I think Apu's one of the smarter guys.
Oh, I don't think Apu would fall for it, but it is very funny where he just takes so long to take the tie off, and it's so obvious that he's pulling the trick, but then everybody falls for it.
Yeah, and he also then says no further questions, and the tie flops out of his collar.
Alrighty, well, here's some Lionel Hutz art. So here is not really a piece of art, but it's something I found on Instagram of someone who had taken Lionel Hutz's card. We didn't come to this one.
Oh, no, yeah.
One of the best jokes is that it says, Lionel Hutz works on contingency, no money down. And Homer gets it and he's like, I just got to change it, that's wrong. And he puts a question mark after contingency. So now it says works on contingency. And then he puts a comma and an exclamation mark and no money down. So it says, no, money down, exclamation mark. Very clever how it reverses the meaning. Eat shoots and leaves style. So someone there's a sign that says no vomit into the sink, fine $500, and they put no exclamation mark, vomit into the sink, question mark, fine, comma, $500. It still doesn't quite make sense, but it's funny.
It's up there. I do see this a lot with things where they add the comma and the exclamation mark in the style of Lionel Hutz. But I completely forgot about this one somehow.
That's Pop Punk Radio on the Instagram platform.
Fantastic. And the card looks a bit American Psycho-y as well.
Great
I don't
cards.
know, that's just all the kind of cards look like that.
So here's a DeviantArt one. Lionel Hutz, attorney at law, clogging our courts since 1976. He's got a big smile saying truth in his ear. Klondike 5, law, 2 W's. And he's got the works on contingency question mark. With no money down with the drawing and thing. It's very nice. It's cool. It doesn't really look like Hutz, but it's a variation on Hutz, and it's really well done. It's a law guy person by Deals Browsing on a DeviantArt platform. Although it's signed QT, so I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, it's really good. It's it looks like when they used to show cartoons in the 50s of the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very clean 50s style, but modern interpretation.
Which he kind of is in his style. He's a very old-fashioned looking lawyer.
Well, when I first saw him, I thought he was based on Jack Nicholson's character in Easy Rider. I don't know if you've seen that, but they meet Jack and he's in prison and he's a drunkard lawyer and he's very sleazy and very slimy and very, very similar. But I looked around a bunch of times, couldn't find anything to suggest that he was based on...
Strange. Given that it's set in New Orleans as well.
Yeah.
Home of pirates, drunks and horse.
I thought somewhere it said that he was actually based on some particular character, but I couldn't find where he is and who he's based on.
I do remember you saying that before, though.
Yeah. So apparently Lionel Hutz is named after a real-life lawyer, Sir Lionel Luck, a lawyer from Guyana who holds the Guinness record of most successful lawyer with 245 consecutive cases. I don't know if that's a real thing at all. But Lionel Hutz is conversely not the most successful. I've argued in front of every judge in this state, often as a lawyer. Here's the third piece of art. Actually, surprisingly not many particularly artistic art drawings, but lots of drawings that have Hutz and Dr. Nick together. I've seen them dancing together. This one, they're just kind of looking a bit guilty.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good pairing. I didn't ever think of that really. But yeah, they both have that sort of Coraline face here, where it sort of looks slightly more stylistic than the normal Simpsons. And they both look like they've been either told bad news or they've done something wrong.
Which is really to be expected with those two. Here's something by KR5627 Knock, maybe. It's someone who's knocked up a Lionel Hutz style card. You'll go nuts for Lionel's Hutz. That's clever for a real estate. Service include law talking guy, babysitter, realtor, bodyguard, drug dealer, keeper, awayer.
He says that to Millhouse.
So it's a little card that's collected together all of the bits of Hutz memorabilia, including the free smoky monkey. It's very well done.
It is, it's good. It's a good summary of everything about him, really. Lionel's Hutz, that is clever. But yeah, it's the contingency money down thing seems to be people's favourite.
It's my favourite.
Reference.
And finally, a very interesting kind of tattoo that someone has, which is the crumpled bird cage that he pulled out of the Simpsons garbage. Somos Lobos.
That is very specific, very obscure, and also very well done.
Wouldn't it be great, like, if you saw somebody, if you had that tattoo and you saw it, like, a reasonable chunk of cool cats would be like, I get you. That's a reference to the classic Simpsons.
Yes, it would be good. That doesn't happen, probably.
This do.
Yeah, no, that's
You can see the quote if you know blah blah blah. That's the end.
Beautiful. Our first in-person podcast ever.
Shall we do a song to finish?
Sure.
Hospitable Bart, I've never seen echo.
Sip a song, Lobavilla Hutz.
He owns something brigging the good zucky tune is.
The fruit tradgy.
Doctor Noah's on this tragedy.
Sodon, Mississippi.
Sodon de Crocs. Cut from the locks bourbon subson.
Liquias, Okiratum, Patifoon.
Model Patipoon, make with the cow cat it. Love you too, man.
H-shape opens door.
Sippin's going garbage.
Powerster uttering.
Crumples bulky cage.
Mona Dundad aren't don't. E-couch.
Brandishing gears and successful Marabe house keys.
Magairu released.
Eastro customers productions.
Skitrat Rigbutter Sternly.
Canoe cozy pub bunches.
Enuion Bikus.
Mentioned earlier's Mapkin Hoogly.
Grewire Jogged Schneider.
We've plenty bunting speech.
Unbeakable.
Unbeakable.
The end.
The end.
Good job. Just in time.
Just in beep time.
Exactly.